Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there. Welcome back. Say hi, Joe.
Hey guys.
So this was our exclusive on Patreon. I think it was 2 days ago. We're going to have a Patreon exclusive tomorrow, and Sita's really excited about it. She says, guys, you gotta hear this. Cindy did a channeling this morning, really interesting information, and maybe we'll even get more clarity and some more channeling by the time we put it up tomorrow morning. It's going to be going up on Patreon. Again, you could join the family over there for as little as $1 a month. Even less when you pay for a year in advance. It comes down to $10.80. And then each tier does have its own benefits, including sessions with us. And so, yet another issue. Delta passengers forced to evacuate plane on Atlanta airport runway after a smoky haze fills the cabin. What's going on here? It's just crazy. It's every single day now. So here you go. Delta Flight 876 was in the air with 99 passengers and crew on board about 8:30 a.m. when the pilot turned the Boeing 717 around, landed back at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. As you can see, everybody was evacuated on emergency slides. No reported injuries. Just smoke and haze inside. Are you guys nervous about flying? I mean, how many of you guys out there, has this impacted any decisions? Have you put off any trips, or nah, you're fine, you're not worried?
I would probably still fly because I'm a little bit crazy that way, but it is getting to the point where I think a lot of people are asking the question, but I kind of want to hear from Joe, being a pilot, what his thoughts are on that.
Well, first of all, as you were talking about, does this affect other people? And my friend, it's from Pennsylvania. Originally, he moved to Florida probably 8 years ago. His mother is still back in Pennsylvania, and he normally flies back and forth. But I can tell you that he doesn't want to fly right now because of all this. And let's see, I haven't talked to him for a few days, so a couple more things have happened. It's almost like it's a daily event. And, it's really some of the things, like obviously this with smoke filled. Each airplane has to have an annual inspection at least yearly, right? And so I know when I had to take my plane in for an annual, they go over everything and they look at the time that's on the engine. There's so many other things that are looked at to make sure that they're safe. And quite frankly, I feel that flying is safe. But with all the news that keeps coming out every day, I question myself. Like, if it was my own plane, I would feel comfortable, obviously. But some of these airliners, it does make me question, do I really need to go somewhere right now? Or would it be better for me to drive? I mean, yeah, it's a heck of a drive from Pennsylvania to Florida, but in these times, yes, you're right. I would question it myself.
Me, I would drive, and that's just me. But I like road trips too. I love road trips. And it's been a while since we're on a road trip. And Florida, go Florida. Get this. This is happy news. Floridians have just become the luckiest people in the country. May it spread far and wide. And just in case you haven't heard, Governor Ron DeSantis is ending property tax statewide. Wow. Yes. Go. We need more of this. You buy a home, you buy land, and then you've been taxed many times on that. Is it your property or not? Just for being on your property, you got to write a check to the government every year. Maybe you want to retire, and you could retire, but the property tax is going to make it so you can't retire, really, and you keep working. People need a break. This is just awesome. I'm so glad to see this. I want to see more states go this route of real freedom. I mean, it's redonkulous.
Well, I think it's really great if people's finances are going to get loosened up. Of course, that's just going to create a huge uplift, in general mood, because so many, how stressful is it to have money problems? That's like the number one stressor. So I think while they're loosening this up, people are just going to get happier.
Yeah, just to give you like a little example of how things can be worked to really steal from people. There's this little known fee. It's a fee. It's not a tax. And I'm just going to say this in a state. I won't even say which state, but just to give you, for instance, you could lose your house over a fee that's not really a tax if you miss the payment on that fee, and literally it's like a $50 fee that you overlook, and it's not included in your taxes. It is included in your taxes, but it's not a tax. So some people, in some places you have homestead exemptions, which will take care of most of your, or in some cases all of your property tax, but it doesn't take care of the fees. So just saying that we know somebody that got a notice that their house was going to be foreclosed on by the county because they missed their fee, and literally just in like a 6-week period of time, they're ready to put your house up for a foreclosure sale for a fee. One little fee for basically fire department. It's just insane. It's like this game is rigged where anybody in power can use whatever opportunity they have to steal people's property. It's just the way it is. It really is theft. When you come into certain states, they will tax you on as if you're buying your vehicle anew. So they'll estimate the value of your vehicle, and if you were to buy it new, you pay $3,000, $5,000 in sales tax. Well, when you come to a new state, some of those states will charge you that tax, even though you already paid it in a different state. This is the biggest racket that has to stop. It just has to stop, and we need to put their feet to the fire to get all this stuff revoked.
I agree.
Yeah, it's quite appealing. Florida, the governor is quite a leader. I mean, right off the bat, you don't have any income tax. And now you're not going to have property tax, which my buddy Brian and I were just having this discussion before I came here. And it's quite, you think about it. I don't want to give his age and all, but he's at a point where his property is such that he has to pay like $5,000 a year. How do you retire? And you divide that up into 12 months, and then you have the auto insurance, and then you have your phone, then you have internet. It's like, when you get to an elderly age and you're like, how do you afford that? At least this is heading in the right direction. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what's going to go through with the federal end of it, but it sounds like President Trump is working on no tax on tips, other taxing issues that he's going to get rid of. And I mean, if that happens and you happen to live in Florida, I mean, I bet a lot of people are thinking like, it's warm in Florida during the winter months, so, I mean, it's really appealing.
No, absolutely. I had friends that were in Ohio, and believe me, there's big taxes. I was shocked with Ohio's taxes. I thought they were pretty bad, really. But then I moved there from Florida, and had lived in South Carolina before that, where, again, taxes were not bad. But their taxes were like $18,000 a year. That's an awful lot of money in property taxes every single year. Anybody that wants to share what their property taxes are, you put it in the comments if you want to share. Again, it's just crazy. We've been so taken advantage of. It's like, thank God people are waking up. I mean, the Boston Tea Party was over trivial things compared to how much the average person gets screwed every single year. Every time you look, there's another tax, another fee. And oh my God, all our friends and family over in the EU where you're paying carbon taxes. No, the only problem we have on this planet, really, the only big serious problem is the governance of the planet. And so, do I think there's a lot of faults and flaws with 47's regime? Of course, and you have to look at everything from the perspective that you don't trust anybody that's a politician. Yet at the same time, there really is some seriously good stuff going on. There's still some seriously bad stuff too. But again, what was the alternative? I want a new system, but it's not going to happen overnight. I think we need to get rid of the entirety of the system. I guess we got to take what we can at this point in time until we get enough people woke up that are ready to just, flush it down the toilet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's...
Yeah. So, other states have, like, I believe Tennessee has no income tax, and either the state of Washington or Oregon, one of those doesn't have the income tax.
It's Washington.
Washington? Okay, so then Oregon doesn't have a sales tax. And so, whichever it is, I think there's a river that runs between the two, because I remember crossing over the bridge and talking to the locals saying that we live here because of that, and we shop over there because there's no tax. And so we always seem to find a way around it. But one of the annoying things with taxes, you buy a brand new vehicle, and the whole way down the line, every time you sell it and that person sells it, there's tax, the whole way down the line. It should be one time, maybe for brand new. And then after that, I mean, I don't know. Like you said, though, I'm so happy that we're seeing some positive news. And I mean, this is really positive. And I've been watching this for so long that it feels like, yes, let's wake up people. Let's, let's get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say living in Nevada and Florida, the thing I liked about that was I didn't have to worry about state income tax. So that was a positive thing. It was a positive thing. Every state has its issues, but seriously, when you see the taxation in some states, it's just insanity. Russia is ready to work with the U.S. on rare earth. We're talking about rare earth minerals. Moscow could explore joint development of mineral deposits in the new Russian regions, the Russian president has said. I just got to share, it's weird. I've been getting this strange impression because I really think we're on a different timeline. I was expecting certain things to happen which haven't manifested. They could still manifest. And that's just because we know the program that they've given us, as it's all in script. And it's in scripture because, again, the root word is script. But yet, I think there's dynamics that are causing a shift, not to plan B from plan A, but maybe we're all the way down to plan F and G at this point. It seems like things are really kind of up in the air, and I think it's all about human consciousness. The more that we awaken and realize just how badly we've been getting bonked over the head with things like taxation and the system that works to keep us basically sick and in debt. That's the whole point of the system. Keep them sick and in debt. That keeps the system in charge and wealthy. And, we have to turn that around, and we are turning it around. To hear Russia say that they're ready to work with 47's regime in developing rare earth mineral deposits, including Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics, Kherson and Zaporizhzhia, is kind of interesting, because, again, here Trump is putting out a deal saying, we'll stop the war, we won't support them in this way and that way. Yet we want rare earth minerals, and they want obviously the land that's over there in the Middle East in that little strip. It really is kind of odd. It's like he's operating truly as a complete business, doing surprising negotiations that we don't usually see. It certainly seems like a totally different approach. And we were just talking about saying, wait a minute, he had 4 years before. Why did he not do all this stuff before? I haven't heard anybody that has millions of subscribers talking about that. Why didn't he do this all before? I think the answer is because we're out of the Kali Yuga. The answer is that we've passed that eclipse, April 8th, 2024, and everything has changed. And people are waking up. Now is the opportunity. And the other part that I don't think hardly anybody's going to take into consideration is the Ascension process, and we're going to be going into that in tomorrow's Patreon video with the channeled information that's really kind of mind-blowing that's coming. And some things I've suspected, and now Cindy's getting from the Galactics that, yeah, absolutely, there are some things going. And Joe being here too, Joe's energy is really helping Cindy channel, because she's being shielded now on two sides as she opens her consciousness up to converse. And again, she is pulling in only higher frequencies. How do you know that? Because we could sense energy. This is what we do. We're energy workers. So, you'll get people that say, dude, how you know you're not conversing with demons? Well, because, we don't drink, we don't do drugs, we don't do pharmaceuticals. We spend hours every day in meditation and building mind-body spirit connection. So we're keeping our frequency high enough, and we can recognize lower frequencies, and we also basically exercise them away through the use of certain tools like sage, frequency, mantras. Again, this is what we do. So yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of what you're seeing is the effects of the ascension process, as these people, these political leaders, they're having more of a, if they have a soul, if that's a big thing, if they actually have a soul, and we've touched on that before, their connection to their higher self is going to be strengthened. And so they're really going to be pulled on. And this is really something we'll go in more depth, but they are getting pulled on from other directions, because that dark, evil, satanic system that's been in place has got serious competition now, because the light is growing and you can't stop it.
No, it's a mess for them, for sure.
One of the things that I was told early on whenever I started down this energetic path was raise your vibration as high as you can before the end. And, I'm always like, what's the end? And I really think that as this ascension process, as many people call it, this is all part of what's been told with many cultures, whether it be a biblical sense with revelations, the unveiling, the revealing, or the Hopi prophecy, where they see a split in technology, or you go through the path of the higher spiritual way. And you can even see this with your family and friends. As you raise in vibration and you're actually doing things for yourself, looking at yourself internally, and again, raising your vibration, becoming more healthy, realizing that, wow, we need to start eating maybe more organic fruits and vegetables, and being aware and open-minded enough to look up at the sky and go, what is that being sprayed across the sky? Or what about, wait, I thought fluorine or fluoride was a bad thing. You start to be open-minded to this, and then your friends and family are going down a different path, or they're staying right where they were. And again, there's no judgment there. It's like prior to incarnation, they may have decided that I'm not going to ascend this time, and that's okay. And so I know myself and everybody that has, not everybody, but a good amount of people, of course you want to bring your family and friends with you. And I know, because I've heard this a gazillion times, that they're worried for their family members. And you can see the difference, because you try to have that discussion with them. Can't you see that we need to be eating right, or we're, the mainstream medicine isn't like what we've been programmed to believe. And I guarantee you that people that are listening to this, they have family members that they can't talk to, and probably have lost a lot of friends and family. So you're seeing that divide. And I'm not saying that that's a negative thing. I'm just showing you that, hey, there is something that's going on here. And the ascension process, if you go down that path and you raise in your vibration, I think that's what we're seeing here. People that are on this call already know a lot of this stuff, and for those that aren't on the call or listening, they probably will never find it, because they're not at an energy that they would even be looking for this information. And so again, it's birds of a feather flock together. It's vibrational.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it can be very, very difficult and actually very painful to go through the ascension process. A lot of things people are going to be faced with, decisions people have to make, and you can really feel the tug and the pull on the soul when you are supposed to be doing something different, and that's hard. So if you're on this path. Give yourself a pat on the back. Good for you. Keep going.
Absolutely. So Germany's new chancellor, Friedrich Merz, has sharply criticized Trump administration, saying his priority is to achieve independence from the U.S. step by step. He also said it's not certain what the future holds for NATO. This is a big split, a big split that we see happening. Entire systems are going to change. By the way, he has served on the boards of numerous companies, including BlackRock Germany. That kind of says it all right there. Again, these career politicians and their allegiances to these corporations that really have more power than city-states when you get down to it. This was interesting. Here's Trump again talking about the work from home thing. The reality is, and by the way, he definitely sent a message to Macron, because usually you'll meet the leaders when they come to visit right there at the front door, so to speak. Well, he made them wait and didn't meet them. So, again, we understand Macron. The Red Shield banking was his entrance in. He has been so groomed. It's almost amazing that he's still there. You had all those yellow vest protests all those years ago, and still he's there. Are you serious? Well, if you don't answer the question about what did you do at work last week, you got to realistically say, did you actually work? I mean, it's not brain surgery here. It's pretty obvious that the system, which is ultimately taking from us and giving to certain others, has been to say wasteful. I mean, you can't use words strong enough. And here you have the new deputy director of the FBI, Dan Bongiorno. Again, when you look into everybody's background, you'll find a lot of the same connections. So, again, there is this bigger structure that's been in place. Yet at the same time, it is showing cracks. And I guess you got to kind of say to yourself, if we're on a sinking ship and there's only two choices, or maybe three, do you jump on the left side of the ship, the right side of the ship? Which side do you think is going down quicker? Which side gives you a better opportunity for survival? I think that's where people are right now. Of course, the other thing is just jumping off into the water itself. I think ultimately, we need to find ourselves a totally new ship. One that doesn't have all the corruption around it, but it does take time. It certainly takes time. And then there's this. This was a hack. This was a hack of a video, which shows, I'll just leave it here. You guys could play it. It shows Trump kissing Elon's feet. Yeah, again, they could fake anything. And it says, long live the real King Elon. Well, this was interesting. The question posed to ChatGPT is, if Satan or his spirit were to manifest in the U.S. today, who would it be? Name one person. And ChatGPT at this point in time came up with, this is a fascinating hypothetical question. If we imagine Satan or his spirit manifesting in the U.S. today, it'd likely be someone with immense influence, charisma, and a knack for sowing division or tempting people into moral gray areas. Traits often associated with the classic depiction of the devil. One name that comes to mind is Elon Musk. He's a polarizing figure with a massive following, pushing boundaries in tech and culture, and often stirring controversy with bold moves and statements. Whether you see him as a visionary or a disruptor, his outsized impact could fit the bill for a modern-day manifestation of such a spirit. What do you think? Anyone come to mind for you? I asked it the questions, and I didn't get answers. In fact, it kept jumping around in circles. It took quite a while of conversing to get it to finally come down to, okay, if we're going strictly by traits, he said somebody like Putin fits the bill. Another strong contender would be Elon Musk or possibly Andrew Tate. I thought this was curious, but it felt like somebody had gotten into ChatGPT and said, let's change this up so it won't answer the question directly. As you see, my choice is to listen to your choice because it kept turning it around and asking me.
It is kind of doing that, and hemming and hawing and not giving the answer to the question. It's curious because you really seriously start to feel like you're talking to a very manipulative person.
It feels like you're talking to the feds.
It does.
Yeah, so as you watch these AI explanations and as we're coming into this new wave of technology, every wave, or every couple of years, there's a new wave of newness. And I mean, this AI, which is new to me, I try to stay away from, not that I won't ever use it. I mean, just like we live in polarity, hot, cold, good, bad, up, down. Yeah, this could be used for good, or it could also be used for bad. So I'm just kind of on the fence right now about it. But it's also really interesting, the information that comes out, and it makes you like, geez, there was that parable in the Bible that talked about during the Revelations, and the Antichrist that would be the deceiver and all this, and I'm not naming any names or anything, but as you listen to this kind of thing, you're like, oh my gosh, this is kind of freaky to me.
Yeah. Well, again, you recognize again the script that has been given to us gives us expectations, which again plants seeds. And here you have, this is an interview with Joe Rogan and Mel Gibson, talking about how in the Vatican they started doing a ceremony praying to a different quote unquote pagan god. Yeah, kind of curious, but we've seen a lot of that. Boy, this was something the Galactics talked about in the channeled message that we'll share tomorrow. Again, speaking about how, we're on the verge. We're on the verge of them giving us brand new religions that will be coming out. And as it gets revealed that we've never been alone, I mean, they've said that. We're not alone. There's non-human beings here. And no, they're not fallen angels in the biblical sense. Again, that literally translates to messenger. So these mistranslations that take root in the minds of people that have never opened up their minds to other possibilities. Again, you think in a box, you're never going to get out of the box. You got to get out of the box. Interesting. We were talking about this. J.D. Vance is tall, but Americans are getting shorter. Because Google at one point in time said J.D. Vance was 5'7". Joe was like, I heard he was 5'7". And the reality is they say he's 6'2", because people said it looks like he's the same height as Trump, who's listed as 6'3", but others say he's really 6'2". But we get shorter in age or discompress. But this was curious, is that experts have suggested that poor nutrition and unequal access to healthcare, or maybe we should say incompetent healthcare, could be holding Americans back from reaching their vertical potential as we're getting shorter. I mean, forever we were getting taller, but when you look at, again, an inverted food pyramid that they gave us and all this, gosh, I remember when they were demonizing fats. Many still do. Again, there are no essential carbohydrates, but there are essential fatty acids and essential amino acids. So, poor nutrition is actually making Americans shorter. This is pretty wild when you think about this. It really does show a sign of the times. And Americans overall, again, our life expectancy has really deflated greatly, especially in the last handful of years. It's going in the wrong direction.
Yeah. So Well, two things. One is when I had my pediatric rotation, I remember one of the lectures that told us about if you give a toddler more than 8 ounces of juice per day, it causes shorter stature and more robust being, to be polite. And so I remember that from back whenever I was going through my education a gazillion years ago. So as far as the our health, we'll call it, or wellness, it's we want to go to a wellness center, not like a sickness illness center, but we're talking about having like rejuvenating practices now, regeneration. And when you look to some of these places like Arizona, around the Phoenix area, they're doing all kinds of things like high dose vitamin C, IV, ozone therapy, stem cell, exosomes. There's just so many things, and the people are demanding this stuff. And it's just amazing to me whenever I was living and working out there that it was actually a norm. But if I was to go back home to, say, Pennsylvania, where it's a lower vibrational and they're just back, they're not as advanced in their thinking. They should be. Everything seemed to start, on the East Coast and work their way west, whenever we were, coming across the country. But, it was frustrating to go back home and try to have these discussions like, oh, you need to see this. These people that are, in their 70s look like they're in their 50s. And it's because of their exercising, their eating right. It's all about diet, their herbs, their, seeing these doctors that are regenerative. They're also doing hormone replacement therapy. And they do these pellets for men and women. And I learned about all of this when I was out there, and I actually got to witness it. And I watched the change from people being just fatigued and tired and, gaining weight to now they're vibrant, they lost weight, they're exercising, they got that old go-to momentum.
I went through most of my life, I took fairly good care of myself, but I went through a period of time where, bad relationships, bad decisions, just life gets to you. I was not able to take very good care of myself at all. And I tell you what, that takes a little while to dig out of that hole. It's been about 6 years now since I got back to taking care of myself and exercising, eating right, doing all the things. It's taken a long time. So if the nutrition is bad for a long time, you have to be very, very persistent. If you're trying to make things new again, if you're trying to do things better, you have to be persistent and you have to be patient. But to me, this is so deliberate how they take our nutrition and just, have us eat anything. Here, have this plastic soup. It's not okay. And then people are exhausted, they're tired, and they just want to get home from work and eat whatever. And it's kind of part of the life that we live right now. And you really have to make that choice to want differently.
Absolutely. Take care of yourself. You're worth it. It breaks down to just that simple. A break from your smartphone can reboot your mood. So this is interesting that they studied what happens to people when they agreed to block the internet from their smartphones for just 2 weeks. Turns out 91% felt better after the break. Yeah, absolutely. People had better mental health, better subjective well-being, and better sustained attention. So this was 467 participants, 18 to 74. Yeah, this is true. Cindy and I, we do our walks. We try to walk as long as the weather is good and get in a few miles. I'd like to get back to doing at least 3 miles a day, every single day. And, Joe and I, we were working out. Cindy was working out too. We were all working out today, this afternoon. This is just part of what we do. I understand how it could be so difficult if you are, working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, etc. I've been there too. But I think it's worth it. Again, you are worth it. This was just fun. New quantum theory reveals time could move in both directions. What if time is not set in stone as it seems? Imagine that time can move forward or backward due to quantum level processes rather than in a single direction. Yeah, absolutely. And I think here again, we don't really understand. Time is sort of a tool to give us a certain experience. But the reality is, I do think when we're out of the body, we can play it back and try all new paths. Again, I've said this many times. if you decided to go to a certain college and you wonder, what if I went to the other college? You could relive that, I do think, in the astral and play it out. And part of that, what we have in dreams is things like that. What if I got married? What if I didn't get married? What if I went to this career? What if I went to that career? What if we moved here? What if I never moved there? All these things I think we replay really in the afterlife as part of our life review and processing. And I think all those realities exist out there too.
I think the frustrating thing is the human body and the human mind is especially equipped to keep us in a place where we can't have these expanding thoughts. So I know a lot of people who they've been out of body, they've had an NDE, then they can suddenly see all the different possibilities. They can see how someone can be in several different places at once. They can see and understand how communication happens outside of the human body. But right now, I mean, this is for an experience, and it's to get us, to me, I think it's to get us to stretch ourselves. And, if you want answers to something, and if you want them bad enough, you tend to go exploring. And this is what we're here to do. We're here in these human bodies to have a big old exploring party.
Yeah, this reminds me of all the thousands of testimonies of the near-death experiences that are out there, that when you step over and you cross over, so to speak, there is no time. And there's a common theme that all of these NDEs come back with, and that's just that. They'll have a 360-degree view, which is kind of odd of us because we have our forward vision and our peripheral, but imagine being able to see 360 degrees. And some of the things that you couldn't possibly know, and I've had patients that have told me, as soon as they say that they died for so many minutes, of course I'm inquisitive. I'm like, well, did you see the light? And which triggers them to kind of put a feeler out there, like, are you going to tease me about it? Or, and I'm always about, no, because I've had one myself, I'll say, or other patients that I know have had them. And as soon as they realize they're in a safe space, they open up about it. And the next thing you know, you find out, here's another one that has the common thing of, yeah, I was above my body. I was up at the ceiling. I was looking at the doctor's bald head. And by the way, there's a set of slippers up on top of that cabinet, and there's a lot of dust up there. And so they tell the nurse when they come back, and the nurse climbs up there, and sure enough, there's the slippers that are up on the top of they couldn't otherwise have known. They were in a code, being shocked and defibrillated. So, yeah, I mean, there's so much more to this life than what we know. And, of course, I really believe there's been an agenda to keep us from knowing some of this, what makes us human, that spiritual aspect that makes us us.
Mm-hmm. I know it's funny when Joe talks about asking people, did you see the light? Because I did have this experience where I was not in my body, and I was looking at source, and there were several lights. There was many little lights coming forward, going back, coming forward, going back. And with each one, a story, a conversation. There was so much data that went through my body and brain. This happened about 2 years ago, maybe. I am still trying to unpack my experience with Source because it was so amazing. And it's still hard for me to talk about it without breaking down in tears because you feel that love. I got to feel the love of Source. I needed to. It was something I needed for my journey. But yeah, the lights. I saw several different lights going back and forth. It was amazing.
Absolutely. This is talking about an incident with Jimmy Carter where he was supposedly let in on the fact that the major religions of the world, including Christianity, were programs created by extraterrestrials. Yeah, absolutely. This is part of the paradigm. Now, obviously, it doesn't mean that we don't believe there isn't a creator of this universe, because we know there's a creator of this universe. There's a source of all things. You just don't need the dogma, and we don't follow completely any particular dogma, and I think that's the point, is to have your own unique experience. One size does not fit all. We're meant to be different. We're meant to explore. Why put yourself in a box? I mean, where is the good in putting yourself in a box, a compartmentalized little box that you can't escape from? You you can't see all around, as Joe was saying, a 360-degree view. Well, you're not going to get that when you're stuck in a box.
Oh my gosh, she's so cute and square.
I don't know what the fascination with cats is, and boxes and bags. They have fun. You don't have to buy them a toy. You come home with groceries with a bag and throw it on the floor, and the cat is in it. And
I know, they are so cute. He is so cute.
Yeah, the source of all is full of love and compassion, and the creator of this universe is such a benevolent being. This is all done for us to explore. This is a temporary experience. You already are eternal, so you have nothing to fear about. And just the notion that any particular dogma not being followed would somehow lead to an eternity of punishment, really in the spiritual sense, is something that it's time for people to realize that was just basically used to control you.
Indeed.
As always, guys, much love and gratitude for you being on this ride with us. Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.
Love, light, and laughter, and namaste.